but I want to get going with the first panel, so I want to invite the panel members of the first panel to come up, and as they do, I'll tell you a little bit about them and then introduce the moderator and the speakers for the first panel. Opportunities for Partnership in Lebanon is the first panel, and we have three members of the panel on oil and gas. Dr. Boufadel, who will talk to the potentials of oil and gas for Lebanon and how to collaborate with oil companies, not only to extract oil and gas, but also to develop skills in Lebanon with external funding. Mr. Alexander Checker, Projects and Infrastructure Development, Gas to Power Project Development. You can come on stage and please have a seat. There's beautiful chairs here for you. I'd like to take one myself any minute. And Mr. George Sassine, talking oil and gas in Lebanon, laws and regulations, transparency, environmental protection review about bidding companies. Also, with opening remarks on the panel, we have a keynote speaker, Mr. Najaf Faris. And then let me introduce you, who will start this off for us with the opening statement. His Excellency, Cesar Abu Khalil, Minister of Energy and Water. Are they good seats? The head of the Lebanese Petroleum Administration, Mr. Wissam Shabat, please.
Excellencies, distinguished participants and attendees, ladies and gentlemen. Throughout history, modern history at least, energy and water have been the lifeblood of every civilization. No society can thrive without ensuring its energy security and its water resources. Our ministry oversees the sectors of energy, electricity, hydrocarbons, renewable energies, and water. Hence, it is responsible for the vision, the planning, and the implementation of the projects. I will try in this presentation to set the scene for the following two panels in a way to maximize the benefit from the audience and the ministry, in a way to get the diaspora informed of our projects and the opportunities that lie ahead. Can we? We're not on the screen. Well, we had prepared a presentation. I don't know why. I can see it here. I can't see it on the screen. Okay. Okay, so the first sector and hottest topic now in Lebanon is electricity. At the ministry's taking over in 2009, no investments had been made in the last 15 years in that ministry. Power plants were left to decay, and the gap between supply and demand was growing every year. Not to mention the high cost of electricity production due to the bad choices of technologies and of fuels at the time. In June 2010, Minister Basil elaborated a sector policy plan that was approved by the Council of Ministers and hence became the governmental policy of Lebanon in this sector. So this sector, of course, is divided in four subsectors in this presentation: the generation, the transmission, the distribution, and the renewable energies. In the generation sector, a multi-speed approach was taken. First, ensuring emergency power through floating ready-made plug-in power plants to launching the construction of 700 megawatts of land power plants, one in Zouk, one in Ji, one in Deir Ammar. Two of them are already in service. One is lagging behind a little bit, but it will be soon resumed and in service. We launched the rehabilitation of our old power plants in a way to add something like 300 megawatts on the grid. And Minister Basile in 2012 launched the IPP's idea, the independent power providers, in a way to introduce the private sector to the generation subsector in the electricity. And of course, fifth was to ensure the cheap fuel through turning our energy production onto natural gas through the construction of floating storage regasification plants, what we commonly call the FSRUs. These projects, when commissioned, should have met the demand and the natural growth of about 4% yearly. Now what happened was a delay in Deir Ammar, as I have said, a delay in the rehabilitation projects conducted by the CDR, the Council for Development and Reconstruction, and the IPPs due to the well-known political crisis that the country had to endure a few years back. Two, an extraordinary increase of the demand through the massive influx of Syrian displaced that are consuming something like 500 megawatts, and 500 megawatts in the Lebanese scale is a lot. It is 5 years of electricity a day. So all that had necessitated the relaunch of the electricity policy paper through some remedial actions, one of which is the importation of emergency power, of course, and then the relaunch of the IPPs. The government has approved the relaunch of this tender. This is another opportunity that lies ahead for the Lebanese diaspora, and of course the importation of natural gas through the construction of the FSRUs, another tender that is lying ahead. In all cases, in this sector, I would like to say that we stay committed to ensure the Lebanese, with all their energy needs, with the most effective cost, and in the shortest delays. This is a pledge we have set to the Lebanese, and we are working very hard day in, day out to meet these goals. The second subsector is the transmission. Of course, an upgrade of our transmission capacity was needed to be able to convey the additional power on the grid. Hence, we were able to complete all the projects set forth in 2010, and we added an additional transmission capacity of 1,500 megawatts on the grid. This was through the construction of 3 major substations and more than 158 kilometers of overhead transmission lines. Moreover, the government 2 weeks ago has approved a new master plan for the projects to be constructed from now to 2030 for a cost of about $600 million, and these are lots of projects that are being studied today by EDL and by EDL consultants, and that will be put forth for tender in the coming year. Our third our third subsector here is the distribution. This subsector has also suffered from decades of negligence and mismanagement. Towns and cities were growing at a faster pace than the grid was growing. Technical and non-technical losses were up to 40%. Here too, Minister Basile launched a first successful project in partnership between the public and private sectors, which was well known in Lebanon as the DSPs, the distribution service providers. Lebanon was divided to three major zones, areas. Every zone was contracted to a service provider. They took over the network, the medium voltage, the low voltage networks, all the way to the meters and the collections, the bill collections. Of course, the ultimate aim is being to have the smart grid completed. We have so far installed 4,000 smart meters. This is just a pilot project. We should reach for about 1 million smart meters. This first pilot project is working perfectly well, and this will pave the way for the installation of the smart grid all over Lebanon. Why I said this was a successful project? Because if you factor in the amelioration of the collection that has happened, the gain of about 20% on the technical and non-technical losses, the fixed assets and items of new network components that are already installed, they exceed the total amount that the DSPs has built. So, and the result is yet to be ameliorated when the smart grid will be completed. So when Minister Basile said this is a zero cost project, I can say this was very humble of him. It is a project that has made hundreds of millions of dollars, that has saved hundreds of millions of dollars to EDL and to the Lebanese government and the Lebanese taxpayers at the end. Our fourth subsector in electricity, and I have no shame here to say that this is an acquired culture for me. When Minister Basile back in 2010 told me I wasn't giving enough attention to this sector, I thought the gap is 1,200 megawatts, and they were working for 200 kilowatts, 0.2 megawatts. So can we afford to allocate our time to that? And I have no shame to say I was wrong. I was wrong because the attention he gave to that subsector made it one of the most booming sectors in Lebanon. Few days ago, the governor of BDL told us in the International Beirut Energy Forum that this sector, as per their census, has created more than 10,000 jobs, 10,000 new jobs on the Lebanese market. And this is a really booming sector. This this sector that has followed the path set forth by Minister Basile in the National Renewable Energy Action Plan and the National Energy Efficiency Renewable Plans that we continue to update and modernize, and that we have reissued in an updated format for the years 2016, 2020. All that was of course facilitated through the subsidized financing of BDL that has made available $500 million in the last 3 years, and similar amounts could be provided to ensure the continuous growth of this sector. I would like also here to mention at the end of this section that the ministry has conducted 2 large tenders in this field. A first one that is being concluded now with the awarding of 3 permits to produce 200 megawatts out of wind farms in Akkar, north of Lebanon, and an ongoing one to produce around 180 megawatts out of photovoltaic farms all over the country in the 4 major muhafazat, the 4 major provinces, one in the north, Bekaa, south, and Mount Lebanon, about 40 megawatts, 40 to 50 megawatts in every province. Our second sector of interest is the water sector. And here I will be brief here because, as I understand, the topic will not be on the agenda of the 2 following panels. But I would like to say that our country is blessed with 8.4 billion cubic meters of precipitations a year. And yet, water outages and rationing have been decades-long routine. The national strategy, also put forth by Minister Bassil when he was Minister of Energy and Water, took on the problem on every front, whether technical or administrative at the time. One, ensuring the water sources was the priority, launching 7 new dams and completing them in less than 6 years with all the political crisis that we have endured for the last years, despite all the hurdles we've met, while it took the government of Lebanon 60 years to build only 2 dams. So in 6 years, we will have 7 dams, and we will have, well, they're showing here the ones that are already completed and the ones that are being built, that are ongoing. And we have studies for 50 locations where we can build dams. We will be launching them 10 after 10 in a way to be able to inaugurate each and every year a new dam, thus harnessing all our water sources. Well, we have seen some slides here from the dams under construction, but this is the Ba'ata Dam about to be finished. Can we see another one? I think this is the Msailha Dam also. This is also Msailha Dam from another angle, I think. And the last photo was the inspection visit conducted with His Excellency the President of the Republic and His Excellency Minister Bassil. Our third sector is the oil and gas sector. It is another nascent sector on which we lay great hope and reckon it will be one of the main drivers of our economy for the coming decades. Well, you see, as you see in this slide, petroleum hydrocarbon discoveries, let's say, exist in all our surrounding, to our east, to our west, to our south. So why not in Lebanon? To embark in that journey, we had to de-risk the sector. First above ground and second underground. De-risk the sector above ground was to provide a modern legal framework for the petroleum activities that would at the same time attract the companies and investors and ensure the Lebanese rights and interests. That was done through the elaboration of the offshore petroleum law, all the subsequent implementation decrees, for about 27 decrees, the petroleum activities regulations, and last but not least, to modernize our tax law, which has happened last week, few days ago. The government approved the modernized the amendments to the tax law to be able to conduct the petroleum activities in a more efficient manner. To underground de-risking, a detailed knowledge of our subsea in terms of geology and reserves and hydrocarbon recovery possibilities was also necessary. And you see this map. This map, it shows Lebanon being one or maybe the only country in the world to have covered all its maritime waters with 2D and 3D, two-dimensional and three-dimensional seismic scans, and to have completed the interpretation of all these seismic scans, of all the acquired data. We have finalized a complete basin modeling, and we have a clear vision on what lies below our seabed. And this has provided us with the necessary leverage and negotiation tools for the upcoming negotiations with the companies that would be presenting their bids on the 12th of October. In 20 days from now, we will be closing our first bid round, and companies will be presenting their bids. This is another map that Wissam provided us with, but it shows the abundance of prospects, leads, and plays in our maritime waters. And if I have to speak here, I can spend all the day speaking here, but I would like to leak one small info here. When we got the satellite images, the regular satellite images that Airbus took of the East Med portion, and we localized the leaks, the oil leaks on those pictures, and when we superimposed the pictures with our seismic scans and with the reservoirs, they coincided very accurately with the chimneys that were localized on the seismic scans, which makes our reserves, what we call now prospects and plays, we can upgrade the nomination to proven reserves. So the oil is there, the leaks coincide with the seismic drawings, which confirms the prospects of being proven reserves. So this has added the attractiveness to our licensing bid, which has attracted in 2013 46 companies. Well, actually, it has attracted more than 46 companies. 46 companies were the pre-qualified ones, because the Lebanon has set up the bar up high. So we attracted 46 of the largest companies in the world. In 2017, 8 were added. We are at 52 companies that have pre-qualified. Now we will see how many of those companies will present the bids in October 12. At the end, I don't want to take more time than was supposed to me, but this is a diagram that I like very much in this sector. It shows the flow we have followed to arrive here. We started, as I said, with the de-risking of the sector above ground and below ground. We set forth a very modern legal framework which attracted a large number of companies. We have adopted a very prudent licensing strategy that has also proven very efficient through all the feedback we got from the companies, and of course we have facilitated the way to monetize the discoveries, which has also increased the attractiveness of the companies, and which will put us I think very quickly on the markets. Finally, I thank you for your attention. I hope I have set the scene for the upcoming two panels, and we'll be here with you for any clarification that might be needed. Thank you very much.
Hello. I'm Nijat Faris, and I guess I'm up next. I promise you not to speak over 40 minutes. Good morning, Your Excellency Gibran Bassil, Your Excellency Mr. Cesar Abi Khalil, Congressman Dar Lysa, and Congressman Ruben Kiwan, Excellencies and Ministers. Thank you, Minister Bassil, for having created LDE, along with your team, such an important forum linking Lebanon with its sons and daughters abroad. I am not just being diplomatic and patriotic when I say that there really are tremendous opportunities in the energy sector in Lebanon. American energy giants ExxonMobil, Chevron, and Marathon have all thought so. Nor am I a Lebanese government official attempting to present a rosy picture. I am a businessman whose company provides oil field services, but also invests heavily in the oil patch. I live in Houston, a city that is a byword for energy. My perspective is that of an investor and operator. Fortune smiled upon Lebanon with a central geographic location, an enviable climate, a diligent, educated, multilingual population with dynamic entrepreneurs. Now, Fortune may be smiling again on Lebanon with the prospect of offshore fossil fuel reserves. The British company Spectrum conducted seismic surveys in Lebanon, and based on their data, it was estimated that Lebanon could have reserves of 96 trillion cubic feet of gas and 860 million barrels of oil in its exclusive economic zone. Although this potential isn't quite as impressive as some of our Arab neighbors' proven reserves, it is certainly respectable enough that as of earlier this year, 52 qualified companies submitted bids in this year's tender, as the minister mentioned. I'm going to present you with what I believe are some of the challenges, and I promise you some good news will follow. First of all, we need to remember that Lebanon does not yet have proven natural gas and petroleum reserves. The process of confirming the estimates is underway. However, the Lebanese government needs to manage the expectations of its people. A lot of work remains to be done before any benefits are realized. A second hurdle is that oil and natural gas prices have plummeted since 2014, making the economics for deepwater exploration projects less attractive. Fortunately, furthermore, the maritime boundary dispute between Israel and Lebanon unnerves energy companies. Another challenge is the need to build natural gas and petroleum infrastructure in Lebanon to provide a cost-effective way to distribute production. The Lebanese Petroleum Association has a board representing Lebanon's 6 largest religious communities and a rotating chairmanship. If politics interfere with the LPA and the laws currently in place, Lebanon will have greater difficulty attracting investment capital. Now, I'm sure you're ready for the good news. The political challenges in Lebanon are not unique. Houston-based Noble Energy was initially blocked by the Israeli Supreme Court from developing the Leviathan gas field. Even here in the US, administrations have been very restrictive of drilling by introducing complicated rules and regulations that hindered the production of fossil fuels. Since the election of General Michel Aoun as president and the formation of a national unity government, the Lebanese political environment has become the most harmonious we've seen in years. Public pressure has mounted in recent years for better governance, and it appears the licensing of 5 of Lebanon's 10 offshore blocks will take place now. The announcement is expected before the end of the year. Another positive is that any international energy company investing in Lebanon will find a ready-made workforce. Lebanon might be new to natural gas and petroleum production, but Lebanese workers are old hands in this industry. For decades, they've been employed in engineering, oil services, and pipeline construction in the Gulf countries and beyond. On the economic frontier, energy commodity prices have seen wide, unpredictable swings over the years. Perhaps the delay in exploration will work in Lebanon's favor. As far as the lack of infrastructure, there is some hope. An offshore LNG facility would take only about 20 months to be operational. Ready infrastructure can expedite the natural gas production. We should follow Egypt's model in that it had facilities in place, and its Zohr gas field will go into production 2 years after discovery. In contrast, Cyprus lacked the infrastructure, and its Aphrodite gas field may go into production in 2020, 9 years after discovery. As for the maritime boundary dispute, there is good news as well. No international company will operate in a disputed area, either on the Israeli side or the Lebanese side. The continued mediation by the US government to resolve or reduce the size of the disputed area is imperative. But to keep this in perspective, it is less than 4% of Lebanon's claimed exclusive economic zone. We have a distinguished group of experts on the upcoming panels. I look forward to hearing and learning from their insights. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me first to welcome Mr. Alexander Checker, of Lebanese descent, Brazilian, and maybe soon he'll regain back his nationality as he promised. So Mr. Checker is a partner of Mayer Brown LLP. He is the co-lead of the energy group at Mayer Brown and the global lead of the oil and gas group. He focuses on mergers and acquisitions, joint ventures, projects, and infrastructure development. The oil and gas development projects in the upstream, midstream, and downstream. Reflecting his preeminence in project development and business transactions, he has been selected for leaders in their field recognition in the areas of corporate, M&A, energy and natural resources, and oil and gas law by Chambers Latin America 2007 through 2016. He has also received leaders in their field designations, general business law and overseas specialists from Chambers Global 2007 through 2016. In addition, Mr. Checker has been listed in the International Who's Who of Oil and Gas Lawyers 2007-2015 and Legal 500 in 2013-2016. He will cover today, his presentation would be titled Gas to Power, market overview, opportunities and challenges or concerns maybe. Also, he will highlight some of the Lebanese projects and how we can benefit from all the new opportunities ahead. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm sorry about the long resume. It was initial of our marketing department. I did not know that was so big, sorry. Okay, first of all, let me introduce myself. I just use my Lebanese family background, Chakrala, in my PowerPoint because I just learned, let's say, a couple of weeks ago, my origin name through a friend of mine. He's here. That he comes from the same village of my grandfather, Atuli, in Lebanon. So I'm very happy that I got in touch with my family after 60 years. Thank you, Joaquin. Second, thank you, Cesar, for the invitation, and Wissam. I'm glad to be here and to talk a little bit about gas to power projects. And the idea here is to give an overview of how these projects work. First of all, we have to understand the gas to power value chain. You see that this project is a combination. It must be integrated from the supply of gas fields, offshore, onshore, a liquefaction plant. You have the figure here to show you the supply and offshore, onshore, liquefaction plant. Then the shipping, and then the gas facility in the other side. It may be in the other side of the world, 2,000 kilometers, 3,000, it does not matter. And then you have the gas facilities and the power plants for power generation. After this initial figure, why is now the right time for gas to power in Lebanon? LNG and gas market price now, it's a very good time for the buyers of natural gas or liquefied natural gas. We now have a window where gas to power projects are economically possible. It used to be very expensive projects. Right now is the best window. Existing port infrastructure and need, of course, for reliable power generation source. So there are right now some gas to power opportunity in Lebanon. Have the Bidavi power plant. There is some issues concerning its gas supply availability. Zarani power plant, LNG ports could reduce significantly the cost of power generation in this facility. Silata power plant project. This anticipated project should be operated by gas, and you need the supply. And Lebanon, while hopefully very soon we're going to announce big discoveries of natural gas offshore Lebanon, but meanwhile, a gas-to-powered project would cover this gas need. Zouk and G power plants. So there is some plants are able to operate both fuel oil and natural gas, and you have also 3 power plants already equipped to operate using natural gas. So nowadays I understand that these plants are run by oil, and of course natural gas will reduce a lot the cost of operation of these plants. I mean, what are the traditional LNG sales position? Used to be normal long-term LNG supply contracts, 15 to 25 years. This is before the current moment that we're having the oil and gas industry for gas to power generation. Cargo by cargo basis, year ahead of others with no flex. So you see that this is the destination of these projects used to be Japan, China, and Korea. But right now the purchasers with more variable, smaller needs left out the LNG market. This is a big change in the global LNG market, where right now these agreements that used to be long-term contracts, they became the supply arrangements toward more flexible terms with multiple players, like in a stock market. LNG supply now outstrips demand. Shale gas in the US, this is the big change around the world. The shale gas in the US has changed dramatically this market. US used to be a big importer, now they are exporter of natural gas after the shale discoveries. Australian projects into production. Less demand in China, slowed down Korea policy, and Japan, they moved to more nuclear generation. And purchases have overbought. So now you have more offer of LNG natural gas in the global market. And combined with, we have the development of FSRU technology. They are now more feasible and cheaper than used to be, and also reliable. As an example, have Indonesia, Brazil, Middle East, and Pakistan that they have been operating new FSRU facilities. And quicker and more flexible than land-based terminals. Then coal-fired generation, that could be an option, but is less attractive after the Environment Conference 2021. This will give you some figure about the global demand and supply of LNG. You see that when I mentioned that right now is a good moment because you can buy cheaper natural gas, then you have over the future a supply constraint, now have a demand constraint. But what is really interesting, because in addition to these projects, I have to mention that the big LNG project under development right now in Mozambique, that is a big natural gas discovery, 100 TCF, that will also put up plenty of LNG in the market. Another one that just came to Vegas yesterday from Angola, and we were discussing there the second phase of an Angola LNG project that will also provide more supply of LNG in the global market. So this is an idea about the world LNG estimated price, July 2017. You see that US around $2.7. Brazil, it's a very expensive LNG. We import a lot. Brazil has been importing LNG in order to cover the energy demand that's not able to be covered by hydroelectric power plants. Spain, India, Belgium, UK. So it gives you a figure about the global LNG price. So what are the risks of gas to power projects? You know, it's the logistic and how you combine exploration of natural gas, pipeline, LNG facility, the shipping, and also the gas facility. You have to combine everything. So it's all about logistics and plan. And then if you see how I just use this figure because you can see like a coffee shop. You need the cups, you need the coffee beans you produce, then have someone to buy your coffee. LNG, gas to power, of course, it's more complex, but you can use this figure to understand how it works. You have the liquefaction shipping, and before liquefaction shipping, one of the main risks is gas reserves. You must have natural gas reserves in order to build a liquefaction shipping. I mean, a liquefaction facility may cost $1 billion, $2 billion, depending on the size, and also have the shipping, stability of supply, financing, construction, operations, vessel redeployment, and LNG buyer credit. Then you have the regas facility in the other side, where you have financing, constructions, operations, and also capacity holder credit in an unbundled project. And then you have also the gas pipeline. So you see that you have to combine a lot of big and expensive facilities in order to get it working. Financing, construction, transmission regulation, third-party access for the pipelines, operations. And then you have the power project. You know, financing, construction, dispatch, variability, operations, and also off-taker credit. In the end of the day, you buy natural gas, you have a liquefaction, you liquefy the natural gas in a big LNG in a liquefaction facility. Then you have the ships to take the LNG to the other side. Then you have a gas facility, and you have a gas pipeline, and then you have the power plant. And then in the end, you have the customers. What are the main aspects of the gas to power projects? I mean, you have like the traditional energy supply, 15 to 25 years term. This used to be the model when LNG was not so easy to buy as it is nowadays. You can buy nowadays cargo by cargo basis. This is the way that this market has been working. I mean, it's very, for the ones that work in the energy market, you see the big IOCs, Shell, Exxon, Chevrons, looking for clients, Total, looking for clients for their gas around the world. This is what has been changed a lot. I mean, for any new project that you announce that you're going to buy natural gas, I'm sure that you're going to see these guys knocking your door, trying to sell their natural gas, including not only selling the natural gas, but getting into these power projects in order to make these projects feasible.
Alex, can we wrap up in 2 minutes?
Yes.
If possible, please. In 2 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, sorry. I'm almost there. Okay, and then, so there is therefore a window for more LNG to power projects, but it may be rebalancing by 2030. So every project has 4 discrete components in the value chain: LNG supply and shipping, LNG storage and regasification, pipeline transportation, and power generation. So each component represents a specific risk to develop a project like this one. And this is something that we have to combine, as I said, in a logistic project. So these are the basic structures that you have on regas and power structure. You have the shareholders, have the project company, gas terminal pipeline, the power plant, the contractors, the LNG supplier, and then the off-taker, the PPA, the power purchase agreement. And then you have the lenders that will finance the project. The structure with FSRU, you have the shareholders, the equity, the project company, the power plant, gas terminal and pipeline, the contractors, EPC and OEM, the construction, operation, maintenance, LNG supplier, sales agreement, and then the off-taker of the power purchase agreement, and then the lenders in the debt. And FSRU owner that will charter the FSRU to the project co. Because LNG is sold in cargoes, lots, only very large power plant sizes, these are the main aspects of gas to power projects. You need big facilities, big power plants in order to make it feasible, in order to have big LNG, big FSRUs, in order to regas the LNG and then supply the power plant. Other facilities also be necessary, like port facilities, distribution pipelines, and of course the operational complexity to manage LNG supply and regas, especially in the event of multiple users that they can use the same regas facility. These are just an example of some relevant projects around the world. In Brazil, right now, they have invested, it's not in Brazilian reais, it's US dollars, $4.3 billion. Morocco, South Africa, Ghana, Malta, Panama, Senegal. I'm sorry I had to run in the end here. I'm sorry about that I broke. And thank you very much, and shukran.
Thank you, Alex. We'll keep the questions till the end. We have a 10-minute session of questions. We'll have a discussion, and then we'll open for the attendees to ask. Now, allow me to present Mr. Dr. Bufadil. Dr. Bufadil has 20 years of work on oil spills that included work on major U.S. spills, the remediation of the Exxon Valdez oil spill 2007, responding and studying to the Deepwater Horizon spill since 2010, oil spill of 4,000 tons in Michigan 2012. Expert for the U.S. Department of Justice, the government of Ecuador, the American Petroleum Institute, firms, and others. Serving also on 4 U.S. National Academy Committees in relation to oil spills, 2011 till now. Served on the Royal Society of Canada Committee on Oil Spills 2016. Produced more than 150 referred publications. He's a veteran environmentalist, so let's listen to him what he has to say.
Thank you for the opportunity to present. I perused the literature to find some information about Lebanon, and I know the Ministry of Energy in Lebanon has more accurate information. But here's what we know. There's an estimate of 800 million barrels of oil in the offshore of Lebanon. If you consider the current consumption of oil of Lebanon, between 40 and 50 million barrels per year, so that will give Lebanon about 20 years. If we consider the estimates of the government, 15 to 25 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, well, there's no data of gas consumption in Lebanon, but if we use data from our neighbor Syria, 300 billion cubic feet, we find that that will satisfy Lebanon for 60 years. So there are a lot of potentials there. There's a chance that we might be thinking of using oil prior to using gas because the infrastructure of gas might not be present. The opportunities, the oil and gas prices are low now, so if you want to build infrastructure for bringing the liquefied natural gas to process it, so steel, metals, concrete, cement, they are cheap, so if you can borrow money, this will be a good time to build. From variety of sectors, I think we better use this oil and gas within the next 30 to 50 years. Sometimes, we think, okay, you know what, just leave it there, and then one day it will be more valuable. I don't see it here. I think the whole world is shifting to a new economy, alternative energy. In Europe, for example, by 2040, they're going to have only electric cars. In France. So I think we really need to use this oil and gas. But of course, we need to use it in a way that to transition our economy. So we don't sit, like in Lebanon, let the operation occur. I mean, like eating popcorn, and then when it's over, we say it's over. We need to be more engaged in this. When we look at opportunities, well, one thing I'm going to say, oil and gas is better for the environment. And I know that environmentalists, they would just throw a fit on that. How come extracting oil and gas is better for the environment? Well, it's all in relative. It could be because the current sea in Lebanon contains many debris and sewage outfalls. For any operation, for any company, any industry want to operate there, they need to take care of these things, the debris. They have to remove the debris. the sewage outfall, they have to be curtailed. So that's part of the best management practice. So we could leverage the fact that the oil companies would be working in our region to get them to help us clean the shorelines. There are other advantages. We use gas, we use diesel number 6 to generate electricity in GE or Zug. It will be great if we can replace them by natural gas, liquefied natural gas. The concerns, of course, there's oil spills. So extracting oil, you could have an oil spill. Even if you extract only gas, there is the produced water. Water just comes with the gas. It contains many of the chemicals, the toxic chemicals that exist in oil. So, and you could get large volumes of produced water. So you have to account for them. They could cause damage to the fishing industry, damage to tourism. You have amenity beaches like for swimming, but also we could have, historic sites, such, for example, at Byblos and the seawall in Batroun. So there are different values for, different potential impact. Here, I simulated a hypothetical spill in the Mediterranean. I used the sea currents. It occurred we assume it occurred in September 2016. So we used the sea currents, the wind currents, the properties of the oil, and we even assumed that the oil spill, or the spill, did not come from Lebanese water. It came from our neighbors in the south. Just to indicate that, the problems couldn't be only emanating from our shorelines. And it is obvious that we need to have these scenarios well studied to prepare, to have contingency plans for how to address a potential oil spill in the Mediterranean. Because in this case, one would have to think where I don't know if it shows, where to send the ships, where to collect the oil, or where to disperse it. Turn it off. Okay. Now, what are the potential impact of oil spills? Oil spills, they cover the feather of birds and the fur of mammals, so causing these animals to lose their natural ability for insulation and buoyancy. So they can die by drowning or by hypothermia. Also, when they are preening themselves, they try to eat the oil off of them, they can ingest it and then die. This is, we know, and then there is, there are also the small components of the oil. These are carcinogen, and they are mutagenic. In essence, they affect the genes. So these are concerns that you might not find impact in 1 year fish, but the following year the fish will be impacted. Now, just an example, how does the US address spills of national significance? They deal with it. There are 2 phases. They said the first phase is what's called response, and in the response, the goal is to prevent the oil from reaching the shorelines. And in that one, they are guided by contingency plans that are developed, and then they bring input by various scientific agencies. In the US, because this is viewed as a national security, when the spill is of national significance, it is the Coast Guard, which is the equivalent of the Navy in Lebanon. They would be the ones in charge and making decisions on what actions to be taken. Of course, there is the long-term effect, and that is, long discussion. We can skip it for now. Let's briefly talk about response tools. What do we need to have available in Lebanon to prepare for a potential oil spill? We need to have booms. The booms are here. These are the walls.
Dr. Abu Fadil, please 1 minute.
1 minute, yeah, these are the booms. Then you can collect the oil, you can burn it offshore, or you can put it in tankers and then ship it somewhere else. If the sea is very rough, then you have to apply what you call dispersants. These are chemicals that break the oil and makes it, into very small droplet that will kind of dilute in the water column. So this is my last, one before the last slide. What can Lebanon do? So we need to mitigate oil spills, but we need also to build capacity. In the US, the companies, ExxonMobil or others, in every area they train the fishermen and the community in case there's a spill. So they pay them during the training. They communicate with them about using GPS, about using ROV, remotely operated vehicles, about using apps. So I think this could be transfer of knowledge from these companies to communities. The fishermen could eventually use it for fishing. We need to develop training programs for the government technical personnel, engage universities, bringing experts, and then maybe then our students from Lebanon, they can export this idea to deal with the oil problems in the Gulf. We need to provide an economic and an ecological assessment for our shorelines prior to starting the extraction. Because sooner or later people say, well, we don't know what is the background. And of course, develop contingency plans. Like the one I showed where you develop scenario and you say if you have 10,000 tons released here, what can we do in different locations. I would like to provide great thanks to His Excellency Minister Gibran Basir for the initiative, dynamism, and leadership. I know how it sounds, but really we've been waiting for someone like him, so thank you. And, and I would be remiss if I don't mention Consul General Majdi Ramadan at New York. He really engaged the whole community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bufadil. Due to the lack of time, we notified by the organizers that we'll not have the 10 minutes for questions. So we'll have the questions during the exhibition. And anyone who has questions to our guests here can pose them or can ask them during the exhibition, please. Now allow me to welcome Mr. Mehdi Abdel Satter, known as Mike Satter. He is born in Baalbek in Lebanon, graduated from high school from Burj Al Barajni High School. In 1976, he decided to come to the United States of America to pursue his studies at California State Polytechnic University, where he graduated holding a degree in civil engineering and then a master's degree in structural engineering. After several years of experience in the field of construction services and engineering supervision, Mr. Sater decided to start his own businesses. He currently has a business in many locations in the US, from gas stations, C-stores, car wash locations, and other real estate projects in over 100 locations. He also founded multiple franchise associations and was the first president of the Franchisee Advisory Council to BP, British Petroleum, and ARCO. Please, the floor is yours for your speech.
Thank you. Hi, how are you all? I hope you are enjoying Las Vegas, guys. First, thank you, Your Excellency, for my invitation. And I want to thank our new ambassador, Mr. John Ibrahim, for his invitation and his team. And last but not least, the LDE and their team for an excellent job here. Well, everybody talk about oil. I don't think there's not much I could talk about. They cover everything. So I'm going to try to tweak a few things here to make you feel I'm talking about something a little different. Oil technically is derived by three parts. Is the upstream, where the exploration and drilling start. And this is what's happening actually now in Lebanon, offshore in Lebanon. And the second is the midstream, where the crude oil gets transport the crude oil by tanker or pipeline to refinery or to their destinations. And this done mainly by all this big company, Exxon, Mobil, Shell, Chevron. And the last piece is the downstream portion, which is the refinery itself, where they put additive, detergent to it to make it more liquid and more usable for our cars and trucks. And they distribute it to the retail sites, which are the gas stations or any different places. And this is where my company comes. And our expertise in this regard goes into the retail sites. What could we help in Lebanon? Let me tell you, Sater Oil being in this business for 30 years, we evolved from one location to 100. Washington State and California. It's Lebanese come true. It's a dream that I always tell my kids, dream high and aim high. You may dream the first time and you fail. Get up, learn from your mistake, and dream again. And we have big example here. 25 years, His Excellency was in Beirut Street fighting for our freedom. Now he's one of the top leaders in Lebanon and still driving for our freedom. So I always tell my kids, dream high, aim high. You fell down, get up, and do it again and again. We're Lebanese. We don't stop till we do the best we can do and be the best we can be. So I drove this company in that dream to 100 locations throughout the West Coast. And now we're preparing to see when we could go to Lebanon and start helping out there. And my plan is the follow. We design, do the entitlement, permitting, construction, operate, and manage all our sites. Even now, the big companies like British Petroleum, Arco, come to us and ask us, guys, we need you to evaluate these locations, or we need you to manage these locations for us, 15, 20 of them, because you do better job than us. So we want to take all this knowledge to Lebanon when the times is right. And the best things we could help out there is improving the code in Lebanon. There is no implementation of any code. They build gas station anywhere, under buildings, تحت البنيات, في عالم فوق. They don't care. They put them anywhere they can. You can't do that. We need to implement the safety and the environmental contamination. And this is a big issue in Lebanon. I'll bet you money. There's in every gas station in Lebanon, there's soil contamination under it, and that may go all the way deep. It's not only the contamination is the problem, it's going deeper and deeper to the water table. And when it hit the water table, that goes to our homes, to our businesses. We drink it, we eat it, with our food. And this is major health issues that could create cancer, especially the MTBE product. So we could bring all these stuff, double wall tanks that has an alarm to it, double piping to the pumps, with if any of these pipes break, we have a sensor to do. So we could implement all this and invest in Lebanon. In the end, the time is so limited, so I don't want him to tell me you're done. I would like to thank every one of you for inviting us out here. Any question? I know probably my subject is relate to you more than any other guys. There's things, they were talking language, probably you don't know what it is, but I spoke your language. So if you have any question, comes to me, I'm in a panel or in the floor. Thank you and have a great day in Vegas.
Now I would like to welcome Mr. George Sassine, President of the Lebanese Oil and Gas Initiative, LOGI, an NGO building a global network of experts to help Lebanon benefit from its oil and gas wealth. And allow me here to put a personal note on the subject. This is maybe the first international initiative harnessing Lebanese diaspora energy in the energy sector, specifically oil and gas, to enhance its governance and also to look at environmental aspects and many other projects in the future to come. Hopefully, we count on that. So he previously led a product line at GE Power. He was head of strategy and business development for GE's emergency power business and was part of the GE Energy Global Strategy team. Mr. Sassin previously worked with several multinational corporations driving policy analysis, investment, and business strategy. He has published Advancing Innovative Solutions to Lebanon's Pressing Challenges in various renowned magazines and newspapers, including many of international and local magazines. Mr. Sassin holds a Master in Public Policy from Harvard University and a Bachelor in Mechanical Engineering from the American University of Beirut. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, thank you. Your Excellencies, hello everybody. It's so inspiring to see so many successful Lebanese in one room. But I won't lie, it is also very painful to see how many of us are expatriates. There's a reason why we are not in Lebanon. You know, it's an undeniable fact that many of us, unfortunately, are disappointed with the politics back home, and we're disgusted by the corruption, and we're scared. We're scared that we may not have a chance to move back. But the good news is that so many of us are eager to help Lebanon, even if we are here. And this is why when we discovered that we could have oil and gas resources in Lebanon, I quickly realized there are so many Lebanese all around the world that work in the industry. There's economists and geologists and lawyers and engineers and CEOs and CFOs of energy companies. But no one bothered reaching out to them and asked them one question. They have so much expertise and so much knowledge. It's a shame not to take advantage of it. And this is why I co-founded a nonprofit with Karen Ayat and Jeremy Arbid called the Lebanese Oil and Gas Initiative, LOGI. And what we're doing is we're trying to bring together all these Lebanese energy experts from around the world. And we make sure that they're not affiliated to any traditional political party, that they don't have any personal business interest in Lebanon's oil and gas industry. And we do this in order to avoid any conflict of interest, in order to maintain our credibility, and to maintain our unbiased professionalism. And our objective is really to help Lebanon develop a healthy oil and gas industry that would benefit all citizens and avoids all the risks that comes with the oil curse. And what I wanted to discuss with you today is how can we avoid corruption in the oil and gas industry, and how can we ensure transparency? And to be clear, this is not a criticism. On the contrary, transparency is an opportunity for the government to showcase the good work that they're doing and to avoid any false rumors and misinformation going around. And what we've done at LOGI, we've hired an international lawyer, and we've asked them to review all the laws that Lebanon has passed in oil and gas. And their task was to identify any loopholes that could risk corruption and give us recommendations on how we can reform these laws or complement these laws to make sure we are corruption bulletproof in the oil and gas industry. And what they found out is that actually the oil and gas legislation in Lebanon is good. It is in line with international best standards. But nonetheless, they did come up with an 85-page report with some recommendations. So there is room to learn, and there is room for improvement. And we can start to improve right now. In the next few days, we're expected to receive the bids from oil companies that are interested in exploring our oil and gas resources. And this is a great opportunity, and I would ask the Minister of Energy to please establish an oversight mechanism that discloses the negotiation process between the government and the oil companies. And please, we also ask you to publish the ranking of the different bidders and the reasons for their ranking and the results for it to be transparent for everybody. And this is a unique opportunity for us. You know, we should take advantage of it and set a precedent in the oil and gas industry in Lebanon and in other industries, and let's do this right. The second point is we need to publish a law as soon as possible that helps disclose the owners of companies working in the oil and gas sector in Lebanon, especially the subcontractors. And this would allow us to track and monitor if any politician or any politically affiliated person has any ownership in these companies or is getting preferential treatment. So we need to get this done ASAP. The third issue is once a law is passed, it is very hard to change. And what's been happening lately is that whenever a decree or a law is sent to the Council of Ministers or the Parliament, politicians are given 48 hours, a few days to review 100 pages of very complex legislation, and it is humanly impossible to make a decision to vote on it yes or no in such a short period of time. So the solution is to create a public consultation process. You would publish a draft law ahead of time and give 60 days to politicians, to experts, to civil society, to citizens to look through it, comment on it in a rigorous, organized way, and take these recommendations into consideration and include it in the final law that is passed. And we can start by doing this right now. As we speak, there is a draft law being prepared on the Sovereign Wealth Fund. And this is extremely important because this is the mechanism that needs to be independent from politics. It's a mechanism that needs to have a clear oversight mechanism and publishing its financials on a regular basis. And it's the only way that we will make sure that our revenues and future money we will make from oil and gas is going to be spent the right way. So let's start there. This is our chance. Let's start right now. So when you leave this room, please remember a couple of things. Let's monitor the negotiations. Let's publish the bidding results. Let's disclose the owners of the companies. And let's establish a consultative process. Please do remember, these oil and gas resources belong to every single Lebanese citizen. You have a role to play, and I promise you, we will monitor progress. And to the government, I urge you, leverage the diaspora's expertise, embrace civil society, and let's all work together for the benefit of Lebanon. Thank you.
Thank you. His Excellency Minister Abi Khalil will have a closing remark going around the speakers and maybe comments about the last several speakers.
Yes, I have some clarifications to make. I'll just pass through. First, several of the speakers put forward some estimates of the reserves, and I know every number where it came from. Some estimates came from the study on one block conducted by one of the survey companies, PGS or Spectrum or whoever has worked in our maritime waters. So these are not the total estimates of our reserves. Some reports have been issued at some time. They were specific to some block or two blocks in some regions or an area that has been surveyed by one of the companies. So we do, please, the numbers, we emit strong reserves on announcing numbers, especially when we are in the midst of a bidding round. So we don't, this is the job of the companies that are studying now these seismic surveys to make their own estimates. We don't approve any of the numbers that have been put forward. Now for the estimate, our needs estimate is 0.25 TCF per year. So just if I take one of the numbers that have been put forward, we have gas for 500 years to go. So this is one of the numbers, and it might not be wrong. So, but in all cases, we do not approve any of the numbers that have been put forward for the estimates. This is a tender. This is a tender period. We will not put forward any number that can be construed upon by any of the companies that will be bidding and that's in line with managing the expectations of the Lebanese that Mr. Faris has also addressed in his remarks. As for the Lebanese with high experience in the field, this is true. Lebanon has put forward a condition: 80% local content. Lebanese should be hired in all the trades of the petroleum activities at 80% or above. At first, I personally thought it was a very high percentage, but when we met with those Lebanese on all the international oil companies, I think it will be achieved from the first bid round. Now, of course, I know there are lots of Lebanese that they know very much. They're experts, excellent experts in a restricted domain. But when you are putting forward a legal framework, when you're putting forward, you're laying the grounds of a nascent and such important sector, you have to resort to those who have done this job, not to some specialist in a very restricted domain. So we have conducted large consultations, and at every stage we had invited the people that are relevant. So in every stage there will be the experts that will be relevant for the stage, for the phase that will be invited. As for the transparency, I can tell you that Lebanon is the only country in the world to have announced that we want to adhere to the EITI, the extractive industry transparency initiative. We're the only country to have adhered to it before starting the exploration phase. All the other countries, all the other 52 countries in the world, they have adhered to EITI after having an established petroleum production. We're the only country in the world to have done that. When our legal framework was reviewed by the EITI, it was seen that it is fully compliant. Even some of the recommendations that were put forward by the EITI are set in law in Lebanon, where other countries they just abide by it as recommendations of the EITI. We have them in the law. We have a project law that is being now discussed at the Parliament, which deals with the transparency in the petroleum sector, which will cover all the recommendations and all the recommendations that have been put forth by EITI and all the clauses that were in the 27 implementation decrees for the offshore petroleum law. As for the tax law has been published since January 2014. So it isn't just 60 days. January 2014, and we are in September 2017. All the stakeholders had plenty of time to discuss it, and it has been discussed at length in Lebanon. So this is not, we have way past your 60 days.
But maybe Your Excellency, if he meant maybe the civil society in the consultation, not the stakeholders in the government. This is maybe something that maybe we could consider ahead of time.
For the Sovereign Wealth Fund, there is a project law that is being prepared. Whenever it will be finalized between the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Energy, the LPA, everyone, we will have the consultations just like we passed in all our phases. We had organized large consultation with Lebanese and international experts of the fields. So as for the disclosure of the right holders, all the stakeholders, it is put forward also in the law. The petroleum registry will be it's a public announcement of anyone who will be holding any interest in our oil fields. Moreover, Article 70 of the law says that any takeover or any passage of rights in the any petroleum right is to be to a qualified company and is to be approved by the Council of Ministers. So this is something that will be very public. It will be public in the petroleum register, and it will be public in the exchange of any right that will be needing the Council of Ministers approval.
Thank you very much. Thanks for everybody. We'll try to welcome now. We have another sub-panel about renewable energy with Mr. Pierre Khoury as moderator, head of the LCEC in Lebanon, Mr. Marwan Azze, and Mr. Philippe Ziade. Please, the floor is yours to continue with this panel.
Did you feel me lurking like a shark? Thank you, gentlemen, very much for everything. Here I was. Yes, let's invite that next panel up. I'll do an introduction for you. I'll give you, who are in the room, thank you.